Oh geez, the longest wait ever, the feature that everyone has been waiting for, bikes are finally in City Skylines 2. Yeah, it has been very long requested and what a wait, but they are finally here and the update is pretty substantial. We've got bike paths, road upgrades, garages and bike parking, and a whole bunch of really great little mechanics. We've got new policies, decals, props, and a bunch of buildings to play with. Yeah, it's actually not just bikes, but we've got 2 building packs, a North American and European Old Town building pack, which contain a whole bunch of new buildings, so pretty interesting stuff. I'll be mostly covering the bikes today and sharing my thoughts and feelings about the new update, whether the hype is real, or is this going to be a bit of a letdown? Now, I for one, as most of you know, have not had bikes high on my priority list. There are other things that I'd rather see in City Skylines 2 rather than bikes. I barely used them in City Skylines 1, so I am interested to see what they're like in City Skylines 2. But the real question is, just how useful are bikes and bike infrastructure within this car-infested North American city? Alright, so this is the first time loading up Marble Mountain since the update, and we should start to see the effects take place immediately. Obviously more at a human level, so we'll get a little bit closer and see if people are riding a bike or a scooter. Yes, there are also scooters, and essentially a lot of things are happening under the hood. I've just been reading up on the update in the dev diary, and what's happening at the moment is people are trying to figure out, is riding going to be the faster, more comfortable option? Are there cars available? Is it cheaper to walk? Can I catch public transport? No, you can't because there's none. So because this is the very first moment of the update, people are trying to figure out if it is feasible to ride a bike. And I don't know if I'd recommend it in a place like Montana because the streets are pretty car infested, and I don't think this would be a comfortable place to ride a bike. But even in a place like this, you're gonna have a guy like, Rochelle? You're gonna have a hardcore citizen like Rochelle, a senior on a bike, sharing the road with cars, going to the tattoo studio. Rochelle, I like you. Oh. And in she goes. And apparently this giant mall is just one tattoo parlor, which is pretty interesting, but we'll ignore that. And we'll also ignore the fact that these bike racks are facing the wrong direction. Let's just focus on the positive, which is the fact that people are parking their bikes at this mall, the animations of them jumping on it and parking it here. Essentially what's happening is all the assets within the game have some level of bike rack attached to them. And you can add some extra ones. So for me, if I would like to add a couple of extra bike racks, because I do feel like that's not quite enough, I could go for individual stands like this and go along the road like that. I could go for a bike stand, which holds more. I could go for a bike shelter. And some of these might be a little bit more appropriate for a mall of this size. I can actually place them alongside the street here. So essentially, because these guys can't pocket their bikes, they can't just go to this shop here and just make the bike disappear. They do have to drop it off at a bike stand or bike rack, like these ones that are already attached to a lot of the buildings within City Skylines. Essentially, if you want to go to this shop here, you could drop off your bike, walk across the road, and that's it. But a lot of other places around the city do not have a single bike rack, which is kind of fun because it does add a level of challenge. If you do want to see people using bikes, then you really have to think about how they're going to get there, how they're going to drop their bike off, how comfortable they are, and how feasible it is to ride in the first place. So I can see a few brave souls risking their life on the street here, and I would like to make it a little bit more comfortable for them, maybe encourage some future cyclists to maybe take this road. I can go through and add a couple of little bike racks, but then also I can update this road to have some bike lanes. So I can choose which side I want them on, or I can go both sides. I might even do that just as a bit of a test. Ooh, and look at that nice little dotted line in the middle there. Lovely. So I've just made those changes. I've added in some bike lanes. You can see people already using them, but I don't think it's as easy as that. So yes, people are using the bike lanes, which is lovely, but this is a one-way road and I've got the bike lane going in the opposite direction, which feels, I don't know, does it feel a little bit unsafe? I'm gonna switch it on this side. And I'm adding these lanes by clicking on either side. I can remove them by right clicking. And I actually kind of like the fact that we have parking on one side, which I don't want to eliminate all parking. I think it's important to have some parking options around here. And I'm going to go here and just continue to remove and add. And I am trying to make it safe, but you can tell that's not a very safe option for cyclists. So, and look, these guys are still choosing to take the road. I could make an upgrade and add in a roundabout, which does look pretty wild, but I don't know, it doesn't feel too North American to me. So I've got a pretty fun little idea for a bike path to get into this section of the city, and I've got some even bigger ideas for this area. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. This is not a city in the Netherlands with world-class bike infrastructure and just all-round bike-friendly streets. This is a North American city with some pretty good bike infrastructure in some places. Still taking inspiration from the Bay Area, which admittedly does have some pretty good bike infrastructure and definitely some interesting networks. For Montana, this is going to be bike heaven. If you live within this area, then you are going to be graced with some pretty good bike infrastructure. And just with the small amount of time I've had playing this update, I think we need to do more than upgrading these roads just to have a green bike path attached to it. We can do better than that. So here's my first attempt at building something a little bit more impressive. Up here we have a pretty large road leading into this one-way street, and then this goes down all the way down to this section, what is a pretty wide avenue. We'll have to work out what this street looks like, but for this section here, I reckon it's going to be way more pleasant and definitely safer for cyclists if they were separated from the road and had their own dedicated path, something like this. And in the Pathways tab, you've actually got quite a few different options here, including some keys and some bridges, which is really fun. And even this path, which includes a pedestrian pathway. Really nice. I'm going to use Move It to get this even closer to the street. So already I'm getting into some hacky business as per usual. It doesn't take me very long. And you know what? I am realizing that this is not going to work anyway. It's not going to work because essentially this is what I want. I want a 2-lane bike lane that is nice and thick, exactly like this, right next to the road, because you want the bike lanes and the road network to be fairly separate. And as far as I can tell, you can't really do that with the upgrades. You've only got this little guy, and that's not really what I want. And it feels a little bit unsafe for people to be walking out of the shops right onto a bike path with bikes going pretty fast. So this is not going to work. Alright, it's pretty hacky. You can see where I'm going with this. It's a fun little idea. I mean, they're not using it properly. It's because I haven't connected it up. But yeah, I mean, I totally see a world, and this is nothing confirmed, I'm just speculating, but I'm sure Road Builder is going to have some sort of addition where we will be able to create these interactions, well, lack of interactions, where we actually have this median to divide the bike lanes and the road. At the moment, we don't have any bike lanes in the Road Builder mod, but of course we wouldn't. It's only just come out, and I don't even know if it's even possible, but geez, it would be pretty nice if something like that is integrated. hacky, that is for sure. But I am working on something, I promise. I really hope it's gonna work out. Otherwise, I'll just have to delete this footage. What I'm gonna do is I am gonna drag this all the way to about this point. And where he's going at the moment doesn't really work because I would like it to kind of like fill a gap behind what is going to be a lot more of this, you know, like nice old buildings. So this is just going to go straight into the middle of that. So I am going to use Move It, grab these nodes and drag them up. Oh dear, oh dear. Why do I always have to make it so complicated? Alright, I'm not going to sit here and have you lecture me about this being unrealistic or unsafe or maybe blocking pedestrian access. Alright, I'm not gonna hear it. This is happening and you're just gonna have to live with it. And just like that, what was once a very clearly Eastern European building is now the perfect building to fit into a California city. All you have to do is change the roof tiles, add in some palm trees, a mural, and that's it. And I reckon it is looking pretty good, especially with that mountain and the mountain. Yeah, I mean, that is awesome in my opinion. It is now a pretty cool little restaurant slash cafe. If you've got a name suggestion, we'll get a custom billboard made for this place because it is now a pretty big feature of the city. This is what I'm trying to do, trying to go block by block and just add in the detail that the city deserves because I've not done so in other areas. So this is kind of the idea, to go through and detail places up, which I have. I've gone through and just added in some graffiti. Like I mentioned before, I do feel like the city is making some efforts to make this place a little bit nicer. I reckon these buildings were probably there at one point, but have been knocked down or just left to ruin. And now, because we are seeing some new infrastructure, feels like the perfect spot for a new apartment building like this. Now, we've obviously got some crazy behavior around here, and I've got some ideas on how we can fix it. But before we do, if we're gonna see people like this guy riding around on here and using it more than it's currently being used, I absolutely need to add some bike parking. Bike racks are the simplest, so I'm just gonna go through and add a couple here and there. Something fun to note is we've got a new bicycles infograph, and as I'm placing down these bike racks, or these bike stands, you can see that my capacity is starting to increase, which is pretty great. And it's mostly green on our roads, but that is because I haven't really let the simulation run for very long, and people are getting used to the fact that they do have bikes stored at home. So I'm just going to increase the speed of the game, and let's just watch this thing go all the way down to red. Geez, that didn't take long, and it's only going to get worse. So I probably need to up my capacity for places for people to park their bikes. I think the bike stands are good, just out the front of shops, but I do need to go a little bit larger. So wherever I've got these bigger gaps, I reckon they can be better for some high capacity parking. lots more buildings and lots more bike lanes and also a lot more parking. But geez, look at all these buildings. I am stoked to find little corner ones like this that fit in beautifully, and then just splicing in some others. Like, look at this guy. That is a nice little splice. I am pretty happy with that. For this road, I am trying to imagine that this was probably like all the same width at some point in time, probably when there was a whole bunch of industry down here. I mean, there still is, but let's just ignore that for now. But yeah, I imagine that this road was pretty wide and pretty noisy and pretty gross. But the city has invested to remove a lane, and now we have all this beautiful bike infrastructure and this beautiful walking path. So pretty stoked with that. And the citizens also look pretty stoked. But I don't think they're particularly stoked about this. Yeah, I know. I keep on avoiding it because I'm a little bit nervous that it's not going to work out and I'm gonna have to rethink all of it. But I would like this to look a whole lot nicer and potentially work a little bit better. Before I start detailing up this intersection, let's see how well it's working. And I've noticed that sometimes bikes or scooters will take the road instead, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm gonna put a restriction on this road just to stop people from using it, and I'll do this one too. And this whole stretch, this is a net lane, and I would honestly love to drag this across if it wasn't red. So I'm gonna try and find something a bit similar. I think in North America, they have a green stripy crosswalk type of deal. So I'm gonna try and find something a little bit similar. Okay, I think I found my color. It's pretty much the same as the bike lane color. It might be a little bit brighter than I want, but I can work with that. For those of you wondering, I am using the G87. I think this is the basic surface pack, and there's a bunch of colors to choose from. They're amazing. I use them all the time, and something that I really love about them is the fact that they can go over the top of pretty much any other surface. Can't say I love it. I would much prefer that this would just happen if I was to drag out a path just like with this, which makes me feel like it's not quite up to scratch. You know, like how hard would it be to make it so that we did see these lines? I mean, we've got these lines for other sections, like here. I like that, but why not for the other parts? Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a bummer. For now, I think I might try something a little bit different. I could just go straight across. I don't totally hate that. I actually kind of like it, but I don't love how green it is. And that's actually not too bad. I will go through and just add in a little bit more detail around here to cover up some of these voids. I think I can actually hide a bit of that with Move It. So I've also just gone through and added in those striped lines on just these little intersections, and I have to admit, I think that's all that is really needed. I am going to wait for some extra bits and pieces on PDX mods because I do think that people are going to be making a whole bunch of really great things. I will remove this because that looks a little bit dangerous. This guy blocking the bike path. And then this one is probably less realistic, but I actually quite like these lanes and the way they look. So I will keep it like this. And geez, there's a lot of people. Look at that. I just got a little message saying that there is congestion on this bike path. Can I just say that is actually really cool. I am kind of loving this a little bit more than I expected. I'm not going to lie. think that there is a lot more layers to the bike lanes and bike infrastructure and the way that people interact with your city, way more than what it was like. I mean, way more than it was like in City Skylines 1. And this is just a lot of fun seeing how many people are using it. Like, I almost don't want to see any more people using it. I think that this is plenty for the sort of city that I'm trying to build here. Now for me, it is about making it look nice, and these little gaps here do not look nice. Oh, I did it. I used Move It, manipulation mode, and it sort of removed that gap. So maybe I can actually fix this up. I'm pretty stoked with this. This is way more fun than I honestly expected. But what I need to do is I'm going to drive my focus further down the line, because we've just got this little dead end here, and you might be wondering, where on earth does this go? I've got plans. This will be the next episode, and in fact, I am planning to do a live stream on Friday, so this might be Friday's live stream. We might start putting down the bare bones of what this could look like. There's a lot of fun things that we could do down here, so please let me know if you have any suggestions, because I am really keen to work on this area. And I'm honestly seeing enough cyclists, in my opinion. I could see more, but I'm pretty happy with the amount of people using these paths. This is way more than in City Skylines 1. This is probably way more than you'd see in North America and Australia, to be honest. But this is pretty nice to see. And I'm excited to continue to play around with these mechanics and see what else we can come up with. I think it builds a lot of character within Montana, and I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like within St. Andros as well. You know, just seeing these paths and just the movement is really cool. But of course, it's not all great. Like in particular, I think that the fact that I have to create these intersections like this and all these decals is pretty annoying. They don't connect up super well. And the fact that children, yes, children cannot ride bikes at the very moment. I think it's an animation issue, a model issue. I'm sure they want to have children riding bikes, because I think that's a real missed opportunity, but it's just stuff like that makes me go, that's kind of annoying. But I do have to admit, I am kind of enjoying this a lot more than I expected, and I've kind of only scratched the surface. Like, I don't need to introduce any policies, in my opinion. I think that this is plenty, and I have also not placed down any of the giant parking facilities. Like, we've got this whole underground bike parking, and you can even upgrade it so that it has even more parking lots, which is pretty cool. I'm even thinking about placing it in an area like this, and then, yeah, I mean, look at that. You can just like add extra little bits and pieces. It's so cool. So yeah, there's a lot to this, and there's also a whole bunch of buildings that I didn't even look at. So yeah, I think that this is a pretty great free update, and as much as I wish other little bits were included that probably should have been included, I think that this is a lot better than I expected, to be honest. And I'm excited to see what you guys get up to, and any suggestions that you have, please hit me up, like a name for this place and what we do on the waterfront, please let me know. But until we get to those places, guys, have a great week, and a big thank you all for watching, and a big thank you to my beloved patrons and YouTube members for making videos like this possible. Bobby LA, Leo Horton, Yazin Wang, Julian Thomas, Michael, Benjamin David, Oliver Assis, Christopher C. Penny, Micah McFarlane, Bob Tektari, and Robert Maynard. Cheers, legends. Catch you all in the next one. See ya.